Welcome to Innovating Clinical Trials, the podcast designed for clinical research professionals eager to deepen their understanding of clinical trials through concise, insightful segments. Join your hosts, Liam Eves and Ted Trafford, as they uncover the core issues in clinical research, reflect on the industry, and challenge conventional wisdom.
So shifting gears a little bit, what are some of the things that you're most excited about for next year?
I'm excited about all kinds of things. I do think that there will be, I think it will be a strong year. I can't promise that. God forbid anybody try to make an investment based off of this conversation. No one do that whatsoever. This is like educational and entertainment purposes only. I'm optimistic about next year. I'm pretty much always optimistic about the next year. A couple things I'm looking for. I'm not going to get into politics at all, but that could have an effect. That could have an effect. It might not. It could have a positive effect if we start seeing a lot more long-term studies of vaccines and things like that. It could go either way. Jury's still out on the Inflation Reduction Act and what that means, but I feel like the tailwinds, so to speak, are there for a good year next year. I primarily live in the world of small and mid-sized CROs and service providers. They've had a tough year. I would really like to see some new momentum there. It's a tough spot for small, mid-sized CROs right now because it's hard for them to invest in the technologies, invest in the CapEx that's required to do some of these things, let alone buying sites and some of the things that the larger CROs have done, even though they didn't really do much of it this year. So, I'm eager to see how small, mid-sized CROs, i.e. like the universe of most of my clients do. I think that there's going to be a couple CROs and maybe a couple other service providers go public next year. I would love to see a site network go public. My understanding is that's just really not in the cards for next year, which makes me very sad. But I would love to see some, fresh meat on the public markets.
You're right. Not a peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, we'll see about that. There are some CROs that are owned by some very large name brand institutions out there that would make me very happy to see. But so I'm just excited to see the changes. I got to think, I'm very watchful of the site space and the patient recruitment space next year, because that is where I have seen just immense amount of investment dollars flowing into over the past few years. You've got both CROs and financing institutions with huge amounts of money to work with next year. There wasn't a lot of coming together on valuations this year. So, we'll see if that happens. We'll see if that happens next year. But I firmly believe that high-performing sites and high-performing patient recruitment companies are the biggest sources of ROI in this industry. The way that they can optimize a trial, rescue a trial, keep a trial on track, it's unbelievable. And, when I say patient recruitment companies, these are companies that provide services and, probably have a platform.
Yeah.
So, I'm not talking about some new AI company or anything like that. I got nothing against them, but those are the two types of companies I'm looking at next year that get picked up, acquired, merged, integrated. Those are the types of things I'm looking for next year, because there wasn't a lot of it this year.
Do you see, from a recruitment perspective, I always see it as quite a saturated space, and there's from my experience running these type of organizations, you'd see a real sort of commodity type. It'd be a race price to the bottom as such. Are you seeing those type of
I think it feels saturated because there's such an opportunity. There's just a lot of people getting into it, and that's perfectly fine with me.
Yeah.
The need is absolutely there. I just you see it all over LinkedIn, right? X% of trials don't meet the recruitment goals and things like that. Liam, I don't know how accurate some of those numbers are anymore, but they might be. But
they're becoming that they are. We know that trials are becoming more and more complex. I think what's interesting from my perspective is that, as you mentioned, that we're seeing groups come into this space, but it's not necessarily understanding the root problem and how you have to solve the root problem before you can then access the patients. You may have access to the patients, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they translate into enroll patients. And I think that's my sort of beef with the industry, if you will.
Well, yeah, and I'm sitting here just realizing that I got a patient recruitment guru and a site guru on this call, and I promise my comments 5 minutes ago weren't just for YouTube, but it's absolutely
Ted and I talk about this. I think there's huge opportunities in this space. I think that it's about, for me, and Ted, it'd be great to get your thoughts, is that I think that it's ultimately about solving the root causes of this like quite broken value chain, if you will, so you can then start to optimize on delivery.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this a lot of times in the past, and a lot of the recruitment companies are focusing on the short-term study-specific enrollment problems, which is great. That needs to be addressed. But until we start to address some of those long-term issues, then we're not going to move the needle much. And what I do think is going to happen is we are going to start to see, I hope, recruitment companies evolving and new companies coming out that are changing, from just the standard advertising formula to other means of recruitment. And I think that's going to be a really interesting space to watch.
Yeah.
I'm also watching, a lot of CROs have had patient databases for years, right? On their website, click a link, get in on our database. But they've always been half-assed. It's just not something that's been real sophisticated. But there are a number of them, large and small, who have really developed some very sophisticated methodologies around having the database, maximizing it, staying in touch. There's quite a bit going on there, and a dermatology CRO that I know and love, like they put up a case study type on LinkedIn just a few days ago, Innovaderm, and they talked about how on one of the recent trials they recruited half the trial from their database. For a CRO, other CROs are going to look at that and say, God, why can't we do that? Like that's impressive. I mean, I remember working at a CRO years ago where you had a patient database, and I worked there 7 or 8 years, and there was always the link on the website, but I never otherwise heard about it at all.
No.
It was basically saying your proposal. Yeah, we've got a database. Just don't remember we say that.
But I think for me, it all stems down to, that the CROs are experts in taking on those sponsor responsibilities, not necessarily the investigator, the site's responsibilities around delivery. So therefore, they dip their toe into those aspects of, as you say, of having a database and so on and so forth. But I think that's why I'm quite bullish about. I do think that there's going to be this sort of like, and maybe it's not a new category, but like this SMO type approach where, as you mentioned previously, around like velocity hiring BD people and so on and so forth, to actually get in and speak to their sponsors sooner. That I think it's going to be, and I also think that my theory around like technology is that that's going to be less and less of a differentiator as time goes on, because we're seeing now, like with all these tools that are coming out, like LLMs and so on and so forth, the price point to access some of this information. I spent some time building a fully demonstratable product using AI as just prompts, and it's a fully functional tool, and it took me all of about 6 hours to build. Yeah. And that was me coming from sort of an expert opinion to say, okay, how do I build this thing that can model all these different things and so on and so forth? And and I just think that technology is going to be really interesting over the next couple of years to see what actually emerges.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Amazing.
It is wild. Joel, Ted, anything else from you? I'm mindful of Joel's time and.
Yeah, no, just thanks so much, Joel. I really appreciate having you on again and you sharing your valuable time with us. This has been great, insightful as always. Always learn a lot from you. So appreciate your willingness to join us and have a conversation.
Oh, my pleasure. I learned a ton from you guys too, and always enjoy being with you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, you've definitely filled some holes in my knowledge set there. Also appreciate it. We'll be doing this again, undoubtedly. So thanks again, Joel, so much for the time, and look forward to speaking again soon.
All right. Take care, guys.
Cheers.
Bye now.
Bye.